Hey you guys, it's that time again. We're going to be doing a murder in a Manny today. So I am going to be listing all the things down below that I'm going to be using today. I won't go into the specifics just because I want to get into the story. Now I do want to give you a heads up that today we are talking about domestic violence. If you or anyone that you know are going through it, just know that you can always reach out to anyone for help. There are hotlines out there that you can call. There's websites that you can visit. Okay, you guys, so we're going to go ahead and go straight into it. So today's story is about Breanna Moore. She is from Alaska. Her friends and her family call her Bree, so for the rest of the video, I am going to call her Bree. A lot of people describe her as her being happy and bubbly, funny, super sweet, and just like a goofball. Her favorite things to do was to like cook for the family and kind of just like hang out with the family. She was actually three out of three girls. She was the youngest. Brandy and Brooke, and then of course Breanna. Her father Butch and her mom Cindy, which by the way, I love that they kept the B's in the name because for my kids I kept A's. Anyways, so she loved animals. She had a pet chameleon and a pet bully, which is like a little bulldog. So she actually liked to volunteer at pet shelters, so she tried to do this as much as possible. And she is actually like a true Alaskan girl through and through. She loved being outside, she loved being in nature, and she didn't mind getting her hands dirty. She likes going on hikes and fishing, dirt biking, hunting, you name it, she was out there doing it. Like I said, she loved being outside. So eventually after high school, she actually decided that she wanted to become a doctor. She still wanted to like volunteer at those pet shelters because she liked the animals, but she also wanted to help people. So that can show you like how much ambition that she has. Like she just wants to be out there helping. So right after high school, she actually got a job at a local dental's office. Now, at first, they actually didn't want to hire her because she didn't have any experience. But she was so persistent. She kept coming back and was asking for a job that they were like, okay, fine, I'm going to go ahead and just hire you as an aide. So honestly, it was actually a perfect fit for her because it was just a good way for her to get her foot in the door in like the medical field. So at the time, she was dating a guy named Josh Almeida. He was working as a mechanic, and he actually did meet her parents, and they actually really liked him, and they thought like he was a good kid. They also knew, like her parents also knew his parents. Couldn't find anywhere of like they already knew each other for like within the community, but they basically all knew each other. So when they met Josh, they really liked him and his like how he was acting and stuff. Like he was kind of like charming and all that. So he was only slightly older than her. When they first started dating, he was 21, she was 19. And by this time, like her parents didn't have nothing to worry about. Like I said, they thought he was charming and respectful, and he had a job, he was being responsible. So, I mean, they didn't have any of those red flags. Bree and Josh really did adore each other. I mean, the more they started dating, or I guess the longer they started dating, the more time they spent together. And for a young relationship, you guys, I kind of think this is normal. Like you just start like seeing less of your parents or like less of your friends and just start hanging out more with your boyfriend. Like I said, this is a young relationship, and I think we all kind of experience that. I mean, I even have like a really close friend who like she's all about the person that she's dating, and all of a sudden like we're ghosted. So I get it. I mean, that happens. But like I said, I think that was normal at the time because it's a young relationship. But honestly, you guys, this also can be taken as a red flag because a lot of abusers use this tactic as like to isolate you from everyone else. Not saying that this happened to her that early in the relationship, but I do want to let you know that this is also a tactic to where it's all about the person that you're dating and only about the person that you're dating. On March 17th, 2014, she turns 20 years old. And at this time, she's saying that everything is great, everything is going well, everything's going good at her job, everything's going good with the relationship. Until, of course, 3 months later. In the early morning hours on June 26th, her parents got a knock at their door. There were two police officers who were looking super somber, and they informed them that Bree had been killed. Cindy thought that maybe it had been some type of accident because, like, she didn't have that red flag that Josh was a bad guy. But, I mean, things were about to get real grim and the truth was about to come out. Unfortunately, this is when they were told that Bree was actually shot in the head and she was killed instantly by the boyfriend, Josh. And, of course, they were in total shock and they were super, super confused because, I mean, they thought, again, Josh was a good person, but little did they know he was actually, like, a different type of monster. So come to find out, he was actually a convicted felon. He had a really long rap sheet, and his criminal past was super messed up. And this was actually years before him and Bree actually started going out. Ever since he was 18 all the way up to June 2014, he was literally constantly always in trouble. In February 2011, he actually tried to run someone over with a truck and was also under the influence. His blood alcohol level was 0.171, which, by the way, the legal limit is 0.08, which 0.08 is equivalent to 1 beer. So he was well over double the amount of the legal limit. During that time, he was also found with a handgun in his possession. And then in 2011, in November, he was arrested again for disorderly conduct for actually assaulting his own mom. Now, less than a year later, he went to a party, he got drunk, then threw a woman on the ground. That host told him to leave, and as he was leaving, he stole another person's truck, which, like, who does that? Like, who just keeps stealing his trucks? All of these incidents all involved drugs, alcohol, and or a gun, or like a combination of either of those things. Later, Butch and Cindy find out in court that his run with the law was even worse than what they thought. In 2013, he was put on trial for 4 separate charges relating to an assault of his former girlfriend. Now, this other girl was actually a girl that he went out with before he went out with Breanna. And according to court documents, he actually assaulted multiple partners before he even met Breanna. But he only went on trial for the domestic assault for that one girlfriend before Breanna. Now, her name was on and off records, but to protect her like identity and stuff, we're just going to call her Josie. So one night after one of his drinking binges, he picked up Josie out of bed and threw her against the wall. And at the same time, she actually hit the door frame. He then grabbed her by her hair and he actually ripped chunks out of her head right before dragging her all the way down to the living room. That's when he then got on top of her and he kind of put his knees where her arms would be so she couldn't defend herself, and was just like punching her in the face just like multiple times. He grabbed a mirror off of the wall and kind of just banged it against her ribs. At some point, he then got one of his firearms and like shot it at like around the house and at her car. She somehow got away, and then she like ran over to his parents' house for help. So you guys, I really don't care for his parents too much, and I don't want to be biased. I don't want to like put anything or sway you anyway, but you're going to know why by the end of this episode. So what they did was actually they only gave her a pair of pants so she can put on. They didn't even help her clean up. What they did is they went to the house where like the crime scene happened, and they ended up cleaning the crime scene. They never even helped her. They never even helped any of his victims. They never even called the cops for her. What they did is they went to the house, they cleaned up like all the blood and stuff. They got the gun, they got all the shell casings. They actually hid the gun so he wouldn't be able to find it. And then they took him to his house for him to like cool off. So when Josie got to her parents' house, her dad was actually the one who ended up calling the police. When Josh's dad was questioned, he actually lied all about it. Like, he lied about not knowing where the gun or the shell casings, none of it. He just blatantly lied to them. Now, how they didn't get charged with like tampering with evidence is beyond me, because clearly like them cleaning up everything and picking up the shell casings and wiping the gun clean, that's obviously like tampering with evidence. So during the trial, the Amitas actually didn't testify. What happened was they actually got immunity from the state, which again, I don't know how this happened. And this because due to like the Fifth Amendment of self-incrimination, which I do understand this sometimes with like wives going against their husbands in some situations. So I'm thinking that's why it was. But the thing is, they admitted to cleaning everything up and there were still no charges filed against them. And Josh ended up being acquitted in November 2013 for that beating against Josie, which is beyond me, you guys. Like, I don't get it. What sucks is that no one even told Bree, Butch, or Cindy about Josh's violent history. Her parents didn't even know until like court on the 28th of June at his bail hearing. That's when everything started coming out. Now, I know like for me, I would do my internet detective kind of work to see like who this dude is. But a lot of parents, I don't think even like know how to do that kind of thing. I mean, nowadays, of course, like we do that investigation stuff ourselves. Like I did it to all of my friends' boyfriends and stuff. So I get it why the parents wouldn't have done that. Plus, they, like I said, they liked him at first. Now, according to USA Today in the 2019 report, he was actually on probation at the time of Bree's murder. So he was supposed to be staying away from all guns, drugs, and alcohol. He was supposed to be doing his AA meetings and doing anger management classes. Now, Bree's parents obviously didn't have no idea this was going on, or it was even on probation. And what's sad and ironic, you guys, the day of Bree's murder, he actually graduated from his anger management class. Like, how freaking creepy is that? Now, on top of learning about Josh's past and what his parents did, they also learned that Josh's parents actually waited 2 hours before even calling the police, you guys. Like, by this time, if you guys don't like his parents, like, oh my gosh, like, I'm fuming. It's so crazy how they can just do that. This poor dead girl is, like, at the bottom of their steps. On the night of the murder, his mom was actually awakened by Josh's screams. And when she went downstairs to go check it out, that's when she finds Bree with a gunshot wound to the head. So to me, it's weird because, like, if he shot her in the head, wouldn't you think she heard the shot instead of, like, his screams? I don't know. That's just me. I'm just thinking out loud. Now, instead of, like I said, instead of calling the police, she ends up hiding the gun in the dishwasher. Like, I'm over here, like, side-eyeing her, like, what makes you think, like, that's going to work? But whatever. So again, she's over here tampering with evidence. And apparently she, like I said, she didn't hear the gunshot, but she did hear his screams. And that's what woke her up. So eventually when the officers arrived, Josh claims that he had nothing to do with her death. Again, I'm over here side-eyeing him because, like, okay, whatever. Josh said that they were hanging out in the basement and they were drinking. And when he went to the bathroom to get ready for bed, that's when he heard a loud bang. When he went to go see what was the noise, that's when he found Bree dead. So AKA suicide. Now, one of the officers was like, no, I'm calling BS on this because none of this matches up. And it was because, like, the gunshot kind of went through her forearms, which obviously she put them there to, like, either protect or shield herself from, like, getting shot, obviously. And that's when Josh was arrested right on the spot and charged with second-degree murder. Now, the toxicology report came back for Bree, and there was actually no drugs or alcohol in her system. So, again, he was lying to the cops. Like, that's not... I mean, that's what his family does. They just keep lying. So, for me, I kind of question of, like, if anyone noticed the abuse. Now, when Butch talked to some of her coworkers, he was told that, yeah, every once in a while she would come in with some bruises and sometimes she would be battered. And even one time she came in with a black eye. They told him that one time when she was working there, she kind of came in disoriented and kind of was, like, out of it. She said she wasn't feeling well and she ended up throwing up in the bathroom. And you guys, this actually sounds to me like she had a concussion. And even some concussion or, like, TBI symptoms, they have that kind of disoriented kind of feeling and don't end up feeling well and end up throwing up. So I kind of personally think she probably had a concussion and didn't even know it. Now, if you think about it and put yourself in the co-worker's shoes, I don't think they kind of really even knew anybody to call to kind of help Bree. I mean, we can do that with our friends, but with a co-worker, you kind of don't have access to that other person's personal life. Like a lot of times you just work with the person and that's it. That's only when you see them. But to me, at least her manager who has her paperwork when she kind of, applied for the job, there's an emergency contact on there. And if it's not Josh, it could have been like anyone else. I couldn't find this anywhere because to me, hey, manager, step up, call that emergency contact because Bree needs help. That's just my opinion. That's how I think. I'm thinking out of the box. While Butch was doing his own investigation, he ended up talking to one of Bree's sisters and asked when and why Bree deactivated her Facebook page. She was told that Bree said that Josh told her that she didn't need a Facebook page because she has him. Which, by the way, you guys, this is another tactic of an abuser. They try to isolate you and try to just basically say, you only need me kind of thing. Her sisters at the time didn't think much of it until obviously when it was too late. Again, no one saw this coming, but Philip and Shannon, by the way, is Josh's parents. Philip and Shannon knew, like, how their son is. And they could have prevented this, but they continued to do nothing. After Josh's sentencing, Butch ends up filing a wrongful death lawsuit against the Amitas to find out what really happened to Bree and to have them charged for all of the felonies that they committed, like cleaning up the crime and stuff. So they went through a deposition, which, by the way, guys, a deposition is having a trial without having to actually go to trial, but you're still under oath, so you basically have to still go to a judge, and you still have to raise your right hand, and you basically have to still tell the truth. Now, you guys already know the Amitas. You already know how Philip and Shannon roll. You already know, without me even telling you, that of course they lied under oath. In 2017, while Philip was being questioned, he was asked that if at any time did he know if Josh was in possession of a gun. He said no. And he also even tried to say that I don't think Shannon even mentioned it. Kind of like trying to save or cover her ass too. He was then asked again if Josh was ever in possession of a gun up until the time of Bree's murder. He again said no. Now, you know this is a lie because Josh was arrested before in the past, and in the past, he did have a possession of a handgun. Later in the deposition, the attorney questions him about the incident in the past involving that firearm. He now says that, I remember that incident, but then was backtracking about what he originally said. Again, lying under oath. So a quick side note, you guys, I actually found out that incident in the past, Josh's dad actually gave that weapon to the police. And then the gun that was involved with Bree shooting, his mom ended up giving that to the police. We're going to call this a dishwashing gun because there's a lot of different weapons going on. But obviously we know that they knew about these weapons because they're the ones who gave it to the police. So them lying under oath makes me so angry. When Shannon was being questioned, she was asked how many guns did Josh own over his lifetime. She said that the only one she knew about was the dishwashing gun because that was the only one that she took away from him and then gave to the police. You guys, side eye. At the deposition, Shannon actually admitted to not giving forth all of Josh's checkered past to both Bree and her parents, and her reasoning was that she didn't believe that Josh assaulted Josie. You guys remember Josie? So again, obviously she's lying because she saw the beating that he gave her. I mean, he beat her up. Now, question, do you guys think that she's lying on purpose to protect herself or her husband or even her son? Or do you think she's actually in denial to where she actually believes that there's some good in Josh? You know, like a mama bear protecting her baby cub. Either way, you guys, they both still lied under oath. Now, in order to move forward to have the Amitas persecuted for perjury, Butch ended up dropping the civil suit against them. But guess what, you guys? The state won't prosecute them. To this day, there's no charges that have been filed against them. But of course, Butch is still trying and he won't stop until he gets justice. So you go, Butch. So according to USA Today, you guys, these numbers kind of really shocked me. In Alaska, 59% of adult women experience intimate partner violence, sexual violence, or a combination of either. That number jumps up to 84% for Indigenous women, which is ridiculous and really scary. Alaska is rated one of the deadliest states for women with a rate of 3.4 homicides per 100,000 people. Now, if you put that into perspective, that is actually 3 times over the national average. And as for reported rapes, their average over there is 2.5 more than the national average. Now, this is kind of scary, you guys, because now I'm just thinking are girls taught to think this is the norm for them? This can't be right. Through Butch's and Cindy's grief, they find something to be just triumphant about. What they do is they educate themselves about teen dating violence, and then they educate other people through local schools and stuff. So they actually help pass laws about having a teen dating violence education class mandatory in Alaskan schools. So this is teaching kids to know all the red flags, how outsiders can help and speak up. This also teaches kids for them to know who to talk to or who to call, and also provide other resources needed. Kind of DARE in the States here. DARE is like one of those drug alcohol programs. Well, kind of like that, but for teen dating violence. So this is for kids in school from 7th grade to 12th grade. And this is actually called the Alaska Safe Children's Act. Now, that was the original name for it. They actually ended up changing it to Bree's Law. But we'll get into that in a minute. So one of Butch's like go-to quotes, and they actually use it for when they educate children and stuff like that, is don't be afraid to save someone's life. And that is so impactful. It is... I'm so just grateful that they have this program for the kids to know about all the red flags and how to speak up. So this is just one of those unfortunate things to where a death had to happen to make something happen. And it's terrible that, you know, Bree had to lose her life for this, but it is also a good thing that they have this now for all the Alaskan schools. Now, Josh actually ended up accepting a plea deal and pled guilty to second-degree murder. And this was on July 30th, 2015, which was actually 6 weeks after they passed the law of the Alaskan Safe Children's Act. Now, the plea deal is open sentencing, which means that the judge is the main, like the one that rules everything. And he actually chooses the amount of years he will stay in prison. Both Cindy and Butch actually testified at his sentencing, and he ended up getting 75 years in prison. Now, on 2018, on the 14th of February, this is when it now became Bree's Law. In 2020, they were trying to actually make it into a national law, but I couldn't find anything to see if that actually happened, because I'm thinking it's because of COVID. Obviously, COVID ruined everything. But I hope that really does pass through, because I do think this is important for a lot of people to know all of the red flags, or how to speak up, when to speak up, who to call if they need help and things like that, and all the resources needed. Now, you guys, I will plug some information down in the description box below if you need some information about getting help for domestic violence and things like that. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let's keep them relevant. Don't stop saying their name and keep telling their story, you guys. All right, until next time, bye.